answer that phone number. At least they used to.
Next month.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have to go today.
Well,
I don't want to miss your class today.
I wouldn't. I understand that.
I have to see your face every day.
Ah.
No, I said no.
Just watch reruns of Cops on TV, and you'll have a chance to. America's Most Wanted. Post office. All right. So, not that again. So, we were talking, before the class starts. For those of you that always show up a little bit late, you should know that. Oh, let me get another copy of this. Good morning. I thought I printed enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I printed 8.
Had a good message this morning. Yeah.
Where do you get a message from?
Well, you log into you get your messages, and he always has something in the morning.
What are you looking for?
It's in.
Well,
it's
it
in
was here.
Mike? Oh, he just went
And
through
he
it.
basically was saying a lot of
It's not a
agents slow
big
down
deal.
this time
Oh,
of year.
yes, I know you.
And I knew this. Now's a
Right.
good time to ramp up because you got to be ready for the first quarter. So.
Right.
Oh,
That's
it's
true.
50 cards,
Oh,
under $10.
where did you get it from?
Office Max.
It's not Warren Buffett's buying.
Only 13.
He's thinking the
$7
housing
from
market's
Target.
going to come back.
I'll go to the office
Will be
next time.
strong. No,
Have you sent it yet?
I think.
I sent couple.
Good.
I sent, yeah.
I have another more handouts are coming. The paper, the printer ran out of paper, and so they're fixing that.
Right.
And so I'll have one for you in a moment.
So it's good. Give me
All right. And I believe I'm already recording all this. Okay. So what we were talking, yes.
Oh, I think he sent the email to everybody. What's a flip property?
A flip property, when there's an earthquake and your house is at the top of the hill, and then it rolls down on, or it's when you buy a house that's at a distress sale. Most of the ones I've done were probates, where people just wanted to get rid of it and it's beat up, and a fixer-upper, and you fix it up quickly and sell it in a short period of time, typically within 90 days. Right, that's called a flip. And a lot of times they become flops because it costs more to fix it up, and once you buy it you find out that there's more problems, and by the time you fix it all up you can't sell it and make a profit.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
So you move in.
You move in. Yeah, you wait.
Wait.
And in fact, one of the things for investors that if you're looking for investor buyers, is they're looking for fixer-uppers. And, because that's what they think the money is. And I've shown some properties where the investor was too scared to go in the front door, right? Just looking at the house. One of the houses that was a fixer-upper I showed, we knew it had a fireplace, but we couldn't find it inside the house, right? There was a little bit of debris inside the property, ants crawling around and holes in the floor. You could see dirt and black mold in the, you have to have a strong stomach to do this, right? And you have to be able to, but anyhow, that's what a flip is.
Thank you.
Right. So, what we were, we're talking about that. First of all, there's a lot of things to learn, and I'm going to repeat something that I said in the first lesson, which is there are a lot of things to learn to be successful in real estate, and it seems like every week or every class we uncover a new one. But 90% of your success is going to come from your willingness to talk to people, right? And also, I call this sometimes the technique, because, and sometimes people react to that and they say, well, what do you mean technique? You were just talking to people. But by that I mean learning scripts and knowing what to say, which is one of the reasons this course is considered heavily script oriented, right? So that there's lots of practice of what to say. 10% of your success is going to come from the technical, but there's a lot of technical. But if you don't understand contracts, we do. If you don't understand financing, we've got loan officers. If you don't understand title, there's title reps. The one thing that we can't do for you is talk to people for you. Good morning. There's supposedly copies coming out of that copy machine, Taj. They ran out of paper. Because I know
How
it.
do you spell your name? T-O-G, J or T-A-J?
Okay.
Okay.
And if you wouldn't mind just seeing if they're Donna and bringing them in, I'm sorry, the last person has to go get the copies. That's the rule. All right. So, and by the way, that doesn't mean you need to know 10% of the technical, right? You need to know 100% of the technical. That would be the goal, although that's impossible. But it's 10% of your success. All right, so what that means is the 4 habits is that you need to build your database, which means adding 10 people to the database. All right, we have our own database called eEdge, which I've showed you, and there's trainings for, and all of that sort of stuff. Oh, cool. And connect with 10 people. And Tasha, if you could give this young lady a copy too, that would be great. Thank you. And we have one extra. And of course, Loopy isn't here, so that's hers, I guess. So, good morning. See, we should have waited, and then she would have had to go get the envelopes. So if you're going to be if you don't do this part, you're never going to make any money in the business. And this, by the way, is sort of a median goal. You need to talk to 10 people every day. Connect. Connect means in person or on the phone. Add 10 people to your database. Write follow-up notes, handwritten notes that you send by the postal service, because it surprises people that there's still a postal service. And preview at least 10 homes a day. And a week. I used to do. I was just seeing if anybody would catch that. Yeah.
Now, is it, in one of the scripts we were reading yesterday, it said, we can look through a home in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, it really should be a quick process once we get it down, right? Is that the idea?
Yes and no. First of all, if you've ever gone on the board tour, and if you've never been on the board tour and you go, you'll understand why they call it board. Because the beginning of it, you get to listen from every affiliate in the world, including cemetery plot salespeople and that anybody who's donated money to it, talking about their stuff. And then after an hour or two of that, they go look at homes. And if you're new and you don't move fast, you'll get trampled, because the agents walk in and out. Basically, they walk into each room. And the thing is that we're looking at it through what is called agent eyes. Good morning. How you doing? Was that the last? Let me print another copy. One more. Just have a seat. I'm printing one for you. I don't know how I missed it. All right. How about this? I'll make 2 just in case.
Make 3.
Right.
Well, 2 is coming.
Must be the top.
All right.
Want me to go
Would
to
you
the top?
mind getting him?
No.
All right. Thank you.
Should I go now?
All right. We'll talk about you while you're up.
Jackie's supposed to be here, right?
Who's Jackie?
Oh, Jackie's coming too?
I don't think so. I got an email that was something about a bug. She found it in her house. It was like a microphone. And no. So, and these are the milestones we want to track. How many appointments you got, agreements that were signed, contracts written, and contracts closed. And we talked in the first class about different goals. The Daily 10-4, one of the things that I was very happy to see is that yesterday I saw Jennifer and Sharmila practicing scripts, right? Was that true? Was that fun?
Yeah, it was.
It was?
It was, and it was like interesting discussion as well.
Right.
Found when we were practicing scripts.
The thing that you're going to find, Machiavelli said, in time of peace, prepare for war, right? One of his famous quotes. And you don't want to be figuring out what you're going to say when you're talking to clients in the real world, right? And even though one of the things that separates people that become successful and people that aren't successful is the willingness to learn and use scripts. And all right. So I heard a scary name from the past. So the and what people often say is they're not my words. I want to use my words. I'm going to come up with my own words, and that's a little presumptuous. If you've never sold a house, to say, well, I'm going to figure out what to say to people all on my own. I learned the scripts back in the 1980s, and it was Floyd Wickman, right? I'll say the name, and I started using his scripts. And people started saying, okay, yeah, sure, all right, I'll come in and talk to you. And I was like, wow, right, and so I kept using them. Success in real estate is oftentimes boring and unimaginative, right? Because it's repetitious. And I, at many times, wanted to say something different, right? You understand? I was tired of saying the same things over and over again, but even though I was tired of saying them, the person I was talking to hadn't ever heard them before, right? You understand? And so what I see, some people succeed out of the business because they decide that they're going to come up with their own system. Just a thought, get your head in the game. We're talking about seller leads today. Why focus your lead generation on finding seller leads? The answer is simple math, and the concept is taught in The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That's still a best-selling book by Gary Keller et al. And in it, they talk about the 3 L's. And the 3 L's of success. And the way the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book was written is that he interviewed real estate agents that were making $1 million. I've actually spent time with the #1 Century 21 agent in history. His name is Jim Drews, and he and I actually did some seminars together. And he was the #1 Century 21 agent in the world every year of the 1980s. Each year, 10 years in a row, and each year he grossed more than $1 million in commissions, right? And his system is entirely consistent. In fact, at the other office, when Jeff Hansen is talking about farming, he'll tell you the person he learned farming from was Jim Drews. And in other words, so what Gary Keller did is he interviewed not just KW agents, but anybody that was doing $1 million in commissions. And he found some similarities, which he summarized as the 3 L's. And the 3 L's are, does anybody know what they are? Leads, leverage, and listings. And actually, leads, leverage, and listings. Actually, leads and listings are somewhat the same thing. Hi. Thank you for maybe should I make another one? I've got one more. Hi, Maria. There's a handout here.
You make 3 more.
I'll make 3 more. See, the bus just arrived for. All right. It's the topic.
Yeah.
Seller leads. All right. If you have listings, you have leads. There's an old saying in real estate, you have to list to last. Now, when you're brand new, there's some ease in working with buyers. There's some ease in working with buyers because buyers are somewhat easier to work with when you're brand new. They're also far more time consuming, right? And they are planting seeds for future business, but you have to list to last. So right from the beginning, you need to develop a plan to get listings. That's what we're talking about. It's called Leads, Listings, and Leverage. It's based on the fact that marketing well-priced seller listings not only gets the listing sold, it delivers buyer leads and other referrals to you. If you have listings, you have the bait which buyers are looking for, right? They will call you and say, I want information about your listing. They will show up at your open houses. They will call from the for sale sign and the directional signs and the flyers that are in the box. Sellers will call you to ask about your listing because other potential sellers, because they want to know what's happening in the market. It's easier to get business when you've got business than it is to get business when you don't got business, right? And so getting listings leads to more business. Chris Heller, who is the #1 agent in the Keller Williams system, sort of a monotone guy, right? He talked at Mega Camp. He's somewhat expressionless. You think that you have to be a type A personality to sell real estate. Not a type A personality. You can find videos of him doing lead generation. This is what he looks like when he's excited. This is what he looks like when he's angry. Right? This is what he has this sort of flat, but he would stand up. Right? They have videos of him doing this. He would stand, because we're better talking when we're standing, except for me apparently, but better talking when we're standing. And he would have goals and affirmations on the wall, and he's making phone calls to expired listings for sale by owners, people that he's met that were in his database, and he would do it for 3 hours a day. Right? And he sold hundreds of homes with his team. He says that I learned early on to focus entirely on getting listings and getting them sold. I never made a conscious effort to find buyers because the listings attracted them, and that's how my team operates to this day. Buyers are for us are like bees attracted to honey. Our business is finding and selling listings, but when the buyers show up, we convert them and sell them our listings or another home. All right? If you look at the top agents in the office and you look at their business, they're listing agents, right? I had at one time, and I was also I was doing other things, but at one point I had 15 listings and I wasn't that busy, right? But if you have 5 buyers, it'll kill you, right? Do you understand? 5 buyers will kill you. 3 is about maxing out, but 10 listings, it's not a heavy load. Right, you understand? It's the difference in leveraging your time is dramatic. So doing this, the win for you, if you learn to work with sellers, is you're going to build your business with the greatest possible leverage. And for your customers, sellers are looking for the agent who knows how to get homes sold. You should be that agent in the market. We're going to be having other classes on seller service, which is going to be Monday, and the listing presentation, which is next week. I don't look ahead at the schedule, but anyhow. So from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, one of the formulas that they found, which I would agree with, is that a seller listing would equal 1 or more buyers sold. First of all, depending upon the price range, and we're going to talk about farming and target marketing for sellers, I always picked a range where people would sell and buy something in this area. Right? I remember going to Almaden. I opened that up as a farm, and everybody in Almaden whose listing I got, who sold, moved out of Santa Clara County. Everyone left the county. Right? Do you understand? But in Blossom Valley, where I was farming, especially the condos that I was farming, the people would sell and buy another property in San Jose. Right? You understand? I would list the condo, they would buy in San Jose. That's 2 transactions. Right? And in addition to that, every listing I got generated calls from other people, and they oftentimes didn't buy that one, but they bought another one. I had a listing in Almaden on Butterfly, and it was an ugly house, and this couple come in and they're looking at it, and we've done a class on open houses, but I had my computer with all of the listings in Almaden, the little flags right on the computer, and they're like, "What's that?" And I said, "That's all the properties that are on the market in Almaden." And then they wanted to talk about and they didn't buy that one because it was a dog, but they had a townhouse which I listed and sold, and I sold them another house. You understand, my listing created the contact that created a listing and a sale, and then in 3 years the husband is transferred to Redding, and I listed their Almaden house and sold it too. That was a good afternoon, right? So basically, if you get a listing, you should get another piece of business with it. Even in a market like now where listings sell very quickly, I would always tell sellers, because I've been in markets where listings sold very, very quickly, that we want to get everything ready in advance. I wanted to have an opportunity to market the property. Right? I wanted to have an opportunity to run an ad, to do an open house, to do something rather than just take offers, because if all I do is take offers, I'm just an offer taker. Right? You understand? But if I can market their listing, then I get that other lead, which I wouldn't get otherwise, right? And of course, to the seller, would they probably get a better price if they had more offers? then fewer offers. Well, of course they would. Today's plan of action, we're going to understand what drives top agents to focus on their business and getting seller listings. Let me just drop back here for a second because I want to make sure that the MLS doesn't log me out, which it will. Discover the sources of sellers, 6 of them. Learn and practice strategies and scripts. That's the fun part. Calling, we may not do that today because of time, but we're going to, and I'll explain why. There's 2 whys, and you'll see in a minute. And we're going to have a plan of action. Let's talk about making it happen. The truth, the 2010 National Association of Realtors reported in the United States homeowners, they sold about once every 8 years. And 71% remain in the same state. By the way, I didn't care if they're moving to another area. Is there any way that you could make money from that? Referrals. Are there Keller Williams offices in other areas?
Yes.
Right. We're the second largest real estate company in North America, and by February we will have overtaken Coldwell Banker and be the largest real estate organization in North America. We have offices pretty much everywhere, right? And I always liked referrals. I'd forget about them, and then all of a sudden there'd be a check for $1,500, $2,500, and I'd have to say, "Oh yeah, I remember. They went to Vegas." So 1 out of every 8 years. Right now, the turnover is about 1 out of 15 in San Jose, but that's going to change. The reason is I was talking yesterday. I had a little meeting about farming with some of the people, and it's been low because people that have been selling in the last 5 years sold because they had to, right? They did not because they wanted to. But now that prices are rising, people are going to be selling because they wanted to. And that 1 out of every 8 years varies depending upon the type of property. If you look at townhomes and condos, the turnover is a lot higher. Starter homes, right? Do you know why they call them starter homes? Does anybody know? Yeah. Or how about this? When the buyer sees it, they go, right? That gives them a start. Anyhow. That's why they're called starter homes. So when somebody buys one of those homes, when do they want to sell it and buy something else? As soon as they can. When somebody buys a home in Almaden, Silver Creek, when do they want to sell it? When the kids have left, right? They're looking at golf communities in Arizona, right? You understand? 20 years maybe, right? So I had my farming system included. I started with I had an apartment complex, a high-end apartment complex, right? Find expensive apartments, and I was farming them. I'll be happy to share. It's easy to get mailing lists. And the reason for a high-end apartment is they probably could afford a house. I had a condo townhouse group in Cambrian, which I also farmed, right? I had a Blossom Valley farm, and I had an Almaden farm, right? The idea was that I was moving people up and down the line, and almost never did I sell one of my own listings that way, but it made good advertising, right? And so the townhouse people were changing all the time. The one guy I sold 3 times, right? Because he bought the townhouse and then he moved to Blossom Valley and then he sold and he moved someplace else, but not one of my listings. So what you're going to learn a fundamental difference between finding buyers and finding sellers. It's a broad but useful distinction. Buyers come to you when you do things to put yourself in their path. Right? They're easy to find. Sellers are more elusive. You must work proactively to find them. So if we do an open house, buyers are going to just walk in. You run a Craigslist ad, buyers are going to call you. Right? This doesn't work as well with sellers. Right? I've tried Craigslist advertising for sellers. It doesn't work very well. Well-priced listings are a magnet for buyers. Why do sellers want to work with you? There's a 2011 survey which is in a folder which I've shared with most of you. If I haven't shared it with you, if you send me an email, I will. And but the statistics aren't much different. And by the way, the reason that I try to focus people on this is that a lot of times people in real estate don't pay any attention to market research. Having worked in other kinds of marketing and sales, they pay attention to market research. Coca-Cola and McDonald's pay really close attention to market research. Real estate agents generally ignore it. And they sit in their office and they write marketing and they write advertising without paying any attention to what it is that people say they want. Right? So what is it that sellers want from a real estate agent? Notice the biggest answer was help price the home competitively. When you're marketing to sellers, you might want to talk about that. Help finding a buyer, help marketing the home to buyers, help selling in a specific time frame, others, and help finding ways to fix up or sell for more. Right? This is sort of the list of things that you might want to talk about. One of the things I used to do with sellers is I would offer them a free report on remodels and fixing up that they could do and what effect it would have on the price of their home. And when people would respond, I would ask them the question, do you plan on selling in the next 6 months or longer? Because I told them that would change what I would send them, right? You know what I'm saying? If they plan to sell in the next 6 months, then the type of things I would suggest that they would do would be different than if they said they have a long time and they would click the boxes and send it to me. Do you understand that they're qualifying themselves, right? Which remodels pay off when you sell your home? Call me for a free report. If you're wondering how you would get that report, Google search it. Remodeling.com has what's called a cost versus value analysis. And if you learn to use the Realtor Property Resource, which I've mentioned before, which is part of the multiple listing service, it has an integrated what remodeling costs equal in terms of selling price module, right? Which I would want to meet with people and talk to them about. All right, that's what they want. Meet seller's expectation. This is going to be our first meeting with a partner. Let's see, how are we doing? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Perfect. Thanks for coming in, Guy. You've made an even number. On the left-hand column, that means I don't have to do anything. On the left-hand column, you write down 3 things sellers expect in your local market. Use the list on the previous page for ideas. Brainstorm with your partner the things you need to do as an agent to meet their expectation, and share some top services with the class. Enhance your list on notes. So what sellers would expect and what you might do. And the fact, if there's some people here that don't have their license yet, that doesn't matter. This doesn't require a license, right? Is that right? There's more than one of you too, just in case you're looking around. Sharmila's looking around. So what we're going to do is pair up, if that's okay, right? Sure. And if you want to just... And the idea is, don't be bashful. So what we're going to do, you can't be too bashful. We're going to write down 3 things that sellers expect. And then you're going to talk about 3 services that you could do. What would a seller want when they're selling their home? Well, you're giving them all away, Sharmila.
Oh, okay.
All right, write it down.
Okay.
And then what would you do? If you were selling your home, what would you want? What would be your goals? You could look at that. No, Jennifer's cheating by looking at the chart from the previous page. I'm expecting you to act like a real estate agent and forget what I said 5 minutes ago. All right, just take a few. This won't take very long.
I'm sitting here right to ask you. I just turned the page and realized.
So we need
So what we need to do is
Check the
prepare
market, see where the market's at.
No, that's fine, I appreciate it. Well, I told them where the market's at.
we also need to evaluate the
And I
house.
need to be able to.
If I was seller, would you expect that?
No, I'm talking about conditions
And good service?
as it is, and it may be perfect, or it may be a disaster.
Sell
So
them,
we have to evaluate the house and talk about that.
features and the benefits.
Evaluate the condition, I guess.
If I have a market analysis.
I'm the seller. I'm a seller and you're an agent. I expect you to report to me
You really need to know the market, you
Every-
need to know the house, especially, you can't just say, hey, my house is.
everything that you can.
Right, no, I need to know the market, be able to
$4,000
decide examples.
into this book, okay.
Yeah, you're not gonna get off.
So what did you just say?
I think being
And what needs
precise
to be done to
property.
So this is a place to start, it's a good place. Secondly, you have to know the competition, you have to have seen every other house. Why is, just have to.
Know the ins and outs.
CMA,
That's right, yeah, here's the problem.
we need to go in and do things, show them,
So you have to exist too.
you know, so
Right,
when
well,
we
let's
do
start
the
with solar,
CMA,
what's the problem with that?
we need to
Later
have
tonight, you just do training.
Well, no,
material
yeah, let's say close
that
yesterday.
shows what other houses are
How do you see it?
right now.
Well, you don't, you have to know that's what this is.
Come up with high price, high price.
Okay.
And even if it's sold, even if it's sold, it's
Yeah.
saying, you know, like the house you sell down the street, you got a tough sold. And, I didn't get a chance to see your house over sold. You can tell me the buyer's agent, look, I've been in this house.
Now let's leave.
That makes sense.
So you see, something maybe we should go to the side there or after.
So what's another place that is higher price range?
Okay, previous.
The buyers pay more for that.
You want, we should desire, buyer.
Hold it in.
Desire.
Sometimes I go, sometimes I go, showing us, go down the block.
All right.
So like, what they think.
You're gonna make me work.
I know. You're gonna, I'll split what they're paying me. How about that? I'll give you half of what they're paying me today.
So yeah, I mean, you go through that whole process, like you said, taking a list of your, you get a market property, you get a list of property. Okay, well, we can kind of do this to get, address that, give it more curb. Yeah, okay.
Cheating.
Right, just don't assume it's not good enough. It's like, we wouldn't sell a car when it happened.
We need to.
Dirty, right, exactly. So you look at it, you say, okay, you need a little work here.
Also,
Show how we
get the highest price. Most people look at.
Maybe I have to address it.
You definitely have to market the
Understanding
property
market the house.
on a consistent basis. Look at the most buyers.
Actually, you're wrong, this is, listen,
Cash offers or
maybe
or
so how would you do that? That means you
And
got
I
to figure out
guess that's
what
something
you're
that's,
I always sell.
You see how deep you go on some of these things simple like this?
Yeah, by, along those lines, by just focusing on that, you basically take care of these two. Quicker, you know, least amount of time and least amount of hassle.
So we need a marketing plan.
I would-
Or different things. What do they want?
Hassle, I think you get all your reports.
Negotiations, I didn't.
There's all kinds of resources.
That's part of the
Like you said about,
I think you have to get everything done that you can to
All right.
confront any objections that there might be out there.
Okay, let's try to refocus. I know this could go on forever. It seems like it has already to some, I think, but
So is it possible to sell a house which has no insulation?
is it possible to sell a house with no insulation? The answer is yes, but you need to make sure that that would be a good thing to let the other people know. I don't know of houses with no insulation. It's not possible to sell a brand new house without insulation, but San Jose doesn't have a retrofit requirement.
Okay.
Right. All right. So, what are some of the things that sellers expect? Give me some examples.
Top dollar.
Top dollar. So, what would you need to do to get them top dollar?
CMA evaluate their house.
That would tell them what you think their property is worth.
Yeah,
Right? Does that get them top dollar?
not yet.
All right.
Then you
I'm sorry,
can,
what did you just say?
you analyze.
So, giving them a market analysis tells them what you think their property is worth. Does that get them top dollar? So, I was asking a question. The answer is probably not.
Okay, second thing, after you do that, you need to evaluate their house. How does their house compare the ones that are in the market, the competitors.
Uh-huh.
And then what do we need to do to make your house the best one on the market?
What do we need to do to make sure, well, to make their house the best one? Do you mean like staging?
Staging, getting it in good condition, decluttering,
All right.
just getting it ready for the prom. I call it, get it
Get ready for the prom. Okay.
Yeah.
A marketing plan. So, and the marketing plan would do what for you? For them?
Target buyers.
Target buyers. So, would the number of buyers that were exposed to the property have an effect on the price?
Yes, definitely.
Right? Could it be possible that exposing the property to the most qualified buyers would be the single most important thing you could do to get them the highest price? Right? Is it also true that if the property was presented in its best light, that would help them get a higher price? Right? What else would help them get a higher price?
Know the inventory.
Knowing the inventory, your knowledge. One of the reasons that we're going to talk about farming is that the hardest thing for you to fake as a real estate agent is market knowledge. Right? You understand? It's hard to fake it. So, for example, if you're farming an area and you haven't been previewing homes, have we mentioned the idea that you might want to preview properties? Have we mentioned that? So let's say somebody says, I'd like to sell my house and I'm located on Comanche, and they give you the address. You could go and look at the active listings right now, but you're not going to see the ones that have sold recently. I tried that once. Actually, I got into one. I went and knocked on the door and I said, look, I know you guys just moved in recently and I got another model coming up, but it's okay if I take a look at your house, right? Because it wasn't my farm, right? You understand? But that takes a little chutzpah, right, to do that. They normally don't let you look at the ones that have already sold. So you haven't seen the ones that have already sold, but you're talking to them about how to price their home without having seen the ones that have sold. Do you think they might have? Do you think they've been going to the open houses for a while in the neighborhood and reading the little things that the agents have been sending them? They know more than you do about, do you understand? So you can't give them advice unless you know the inventory, right? What's another thing that the seller might want besides price?
And what you just said, you could actually call the agent that sold
The listing agent, the REO, like especially if it was an REO agent.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Find out.
I wouldn't talk to agents. I wouldn't talk to other listing agents farming my area that wanted information on listings that I had that sold. I did not have any interest in talking to them. Why should I? I wasn't that friendly.
Because real estate.
Yeah, I wasn't that friendly, right? I wasn't going to give them information to help them get a listing in around where I've sold a house. I wasn't interested in that. So I heard time. I'm just sorry. Maybe I'm obstreperous, but I wouldn't be that. I didn't have time to help people.
But if you help them, they'll help you.
No, they wouldn't help me. They would steal my client the first chance they got. Right? And so time was that.
Yeah, I brought up the thing of help selling in a specific time frame, and to tell you the truth, I don't have a clue how you do that. How would you help them sell in a specific time frame?
Well, right now, homes sell fast, but they may not want to sell fast. Right? Generally speaking, you see, this is related to pricing it right. At a high enough price, the property will sell. This is why I used to tell people it'll sell even at a high price eventually. Right? We may have to have like a 5-year listing and wait for prices to rise. I actually told the guy one time that I plan to be in the business a long time. I could leave the commission in my will to my heirs, right? You know, that eventually he'll get that price, right? Just because if we waited long enough. But if they want to move someplace soon, then we need to, do you understand when we're going to talk about discussing with sellers, I always talked about price as a strategy. Price is not a fixed thing. Go to Walmart, right? Prices change. Why do they change prices on stuff? Is it because the stuff has changed or because their motivation to sell it is different now? Right? They want to sell it quicker, so they lower the price. And so you understand pricing is a strategy. And if they want to sell quickly, which they might want to, then we need to price it differently. If they want to not sell quickly, then that would be a different strategy. Right? There are other things that we could do to make sure in the contract that they were given the time that they needed to close. So because sometimes they don't want to move quickly. Right? You know, we hear about the all cash buyers that can close in 10 days. Not everybody wants to close in 10 days and move out. Right? So now agents that have buyers are offering sellers 2 weeks free rent back as an inducement to take their offer, right? Because they'll be more cooperative in terms of times. Could the agent help them get that time frame in the negotiation of the contract, right? So time, two things: pricing it right will sell it quicker. But secondly, if you want more time, that has to be negotiated. What else do they want? By the way, when you learn low hassle, that's probably the three. They've been saying this since I've been in real estate, which is the three things that sellers want is to get the right price and the right time frame with the least inconvenience. Now, by the way, those are sometimes opposing forces. I had a listing in Almaden, and the guy had trash piled up everywhere. He had like little alleys where you could walk through to get to places. This is a 3-bedroom house in walking distance to Leland High School, but all their kids had moved out and they'd converted one of the bedrooms into a spa, like a sauna. And when you opened up the door to the bedroom, there was this huge plastic thing in the bedroom where you could go in and sit on a bench and it would steam you. And right now, do you think most buyers buying a house walking distance to Leland High School in Almaden wanted the third bedroom to be a spa, right? Of course not. And so I'm saying, well, to get the highest price, we're going to have to get all this stuff out of your house, and we're going to have to remove the spa. And the guy said, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I said, you realize that's going to affect the price you're going to get and the amount of time it's going to sell. He said, I don't care. I'm not doing anything. I said, okay. And so I suggested a much lower price, and he agreed. We listed it, and somebody bought it, and they removed all of his debris and took out the spa, right? So do you understand? Not everybody, finding out which one is important to them is important to you, right? It's not always price, right? Certainty. I told the story of offer number 2 was $80,000 less than offer number 1. And the seller took offer number 2 because it was a sure thing. And he was already getting more money than he expected to get and didn't want to risk it falling apart. Right? He wanted to know that it was sold, and he was willing to take significantly less money. So these are things that you're going to need to find out. Prepare for sellers. Choose your area of real estate specialization. It could be geographical. It could be a property type. It could be a demographic group. For example, retirees are something called an SRES, which is a senior real estate specialist. There's a class you take and they give you a designation. I've done that, and then I became a senior, so I don't know. Transferring executive second home, vacation homes. Condos and townhomes have their own special problems. Mr. Berry has a CD on the special problems of condos and townhomes. It's kind of scary, right, I have to tell you. But it's a different world. But I recommend a geographic area. And the reason that I would suggest that you begin with that is that you can learn what's happening in that area. Do you understand? San Jose is like the 11th largest city in the United States. You're not going to learn all of San Jose. You could learn, you're going to have trouble learning all of Blossom Valley. Learning all of 95123, which is half of Blossom Valley, is still going to be a bit of a challenge, but we're getting a little bit more manageable. Learning a specific neighborhood is something you could do, right? That's the reason. And so part of the value that you would have is that you really know, you've seen every home that's come up. I just want to make sure this is clear. The most valuable market information you could give them is that if you've actually seen all of the homes that are on your CMA when you're showing it to them. Right? Do you understand? Rather than you just printed it out without having seen any of them. Like when the guy says, well, how many homes have you seen in our neighborhood? You know, I asked an agent, how many homes have you seen in the neighborhood? And he said, that was the only one I've ever seen in that neighborhood. Right? Do you understand? They walked in with the CMA without ever having seen a home in that neighborhood. This is hard to fake. Right? You understand? It's hard to be sincere. You see, sincerity is the most important part of communicating with sellers, because when you learn to fake that, never mind. Then it becomes so. Do you understand? If you can go through the CMA and talk about the homes and what they had done, and because you understand when it says it's a remodeled kitchen, to some people that means they put in a new faucet, right? You understand? Some it's a sink and right. If you've seen them. Now, when we were talking about, somebody asked me, well, when we preview homes, it only takes like 5 minutes. That may be true if all you're doing is using agent eyes to look through the house, but if it's in your farm, I would go a little bit slower. And I'd take pictures. And one of the software programs I mentioned was Evernote, right? I talked about that for showing homes, but you can record, take pictures, record, it saves it in a file so that later, you understand, you're building a database, even though that home is a pending one, and I wanted to see it before it closed. And I wanted to record what it looked like. And I used to have little things that would jog my memory. One of them was an ugly purple wall hanging, right? It was like made out of rope and stuff like that. It was really hideous, right? And so I took a picture of it so that I would remember what that house looked like. Right? That's the best thing about, and I used to do this where I would tell people in my farm that they could call me for an over-the-phone market evaluation. Just tell me their address and which model they have, and I'll give you a rough idea of what it's selling for today. Right? It wasn't that hard because there was only 3 builders in my farm, and they all had standard models, and it wasn't that hard to give them a range. And then they would call me, and I'd say, but to really get an accurate one, I'm going to need to see your house. When is weekdays or weekends better? So one of the things that you should do, we're going to think about this, is there a geographic area you'd like to specialize in? Now, I did a little bit of this yesterday for for the special people. But if you go to stats, I'm logged into the MLS, and you go to residential statistics. You're welcome. And we want to look at sales by price range. So let's say single family, and we want to do sales by price range. And I already know what this is going to look like, but you'll notice that, and this, by the way, was the whole MLS. Let me go back. All right, I forgot one thing. How about, I put in San Jose. All right, that's fine. So we'll go ahead and do it. This is what let me go back to stats. Let me clear this. Clear, goodbye. Okay, now I'll go back to stats and do this. All right, here we want to do single family homes, and we're going to do the city of San Jose, and we want sales by price range, and we hit generate. That's what I'm expecting to see. Notice the $400,000 to $600,000 range stands out, right? So we have a lot of movement in the 2 to 4. That's the second, and then 6 to 8. And then notice that the number of sales starts to drop significantly. My recommendation is that you focus on those first 2 bars, right? See, this is the other problem when people say, I want to do Silver Creek. I always say why, but I know the answer. Well, I'd rather sell one $2 million home than 4 or $500,000 homes. Well, that's nice, So would I. But do they sell as often? No. Do they sell 1/4 as often? How about 1/20th? Right? Maybe more like 1/20th as often. So there's less turnover. Do you think other agents have thought about it, that Silver Creek is more valuable than Blossom Valley? All right, so there's more competition. Also, most of these people have real estate agents. It wasn't the first time they bought a house. So there's more competition, less turnover. Most of them have agents. Throw in the fact they're more sophisticated. They may have bought and sold more homes than you have as an agent, right? As a principal. So how about these markets, right? You understand? This is my suggestion. You're an independent contractor. You can do whatever you want. I'm saying I would farm where there's turnover.
So how do you go from here to find out where those homes are?
Well, you could go to search single-family homes, and first of all, I could tell you where they are, but you could ask me, and I could.
3 o'clock in the morning. Visit.
No, I mean I can tell you. You're looking at Evergreen, you're looking at Alum Rock, the Berryessa, Blossom Valley, Santa Teresa, some Cambrian, South San Jose, and some Santa Clara. But let's just you could do a search in the MLS by price range, and do an export that would export it by I think I've showed people. I'm not going to do an MLS class, but you can make a custom export which includes the area, and then you can sort, and you'll see how many of them are in each area. But those are the areas, right, that are in that price range. Yes.
Well, now you joined MLS. I should be able to. I walk around a lot. I scouted first. Then now I walked. Then 2 houses. One got the lock, so now I can go. One didn't, but it didn't look like anybody lived there. So I'm sure I can find. So when I got home, because people ask how much, I couldn't tell how much. So when I got home, I look around. It's like average, that area, hidden name, is like $700,000.
Yeah.
And it's quite a big house.
Right.
So, but can I trust the website? But now I can go to
you should trust the multiple listing service rather than other websites.
Okay.
Or rather, most websites get their information from the MLS. My suggestion here regarding this is that you should make this a business decision, the geographic area. So there's an advantage to farming where you live, right? And I've heard them. People say, well, I live there, right? So I don't have to drive. And it's just right around the neighborhood. All right, so it's convenient. Number 2, there is something where you could say, I believe in this area, I even live here myself, right? That's that. But I knew an agent that she was farming her neighborhood, and her teenage son started burglarizing houses in the neighborhood, and he was arrested, and the neighborhood watch would walk past her house and glare at her, right? And I'm not kidding. And you understand that there's some advantage to not working where you live, right? You understand? Yeah. Right. And so because maybe the other thing is the question is, what's the turnover and what's the competition, right? And you see, it's not, if you bought a McDonald's franchise, they wouldn't let you put it down the street because it's close to where you live, right? Do you understand? They'll tell you where you can put it. Did you know that? Right? You don't get to pick; they pick for you, because they've done research as to where would be the best spot. Right? So I had agents that farmed Evergreen but lived in Almaden. They would get in their car and commute to where they worked. Right? I'm just saying. Right? It wouldn't hurt to drive a little bit. So by property type, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with starting with one and adding another later. Right? I had a townhouse and there were condos, and I had Blossom Valley, and I added Almaden, right? As one starts to work. You need to think about what areas, what type, based on your past experience, will you put a demographic group. I mean, I've known people that worked with engineers because they could understand each other, right? Sometimes it's people that speak certain languages. Sometimes it's people, you get the idea, there's a variety. But geographic farming is probably the most effective in my experience. By the way, you can do what's called a people farm. I know agents that are extremely successful, and they sort of don't even think of themselves as farmer, and what they do is they meet people and they add people to their database and they call those people. Their farm is not a geographic area, but people. So, for example, one of the ones I know likes to quilt. right? Now, apparently you can quilt in a couple of ways. One, you can do it by yourself at home, or they actually have groups of people that get together and they quilt, and she gets their contact information, she puts it in her database and follows up with them and lists and sells homes to that group.
The sphere.
A sphere of influence. That's all, but that's a people farm, right? You understand? I've known people that like to work out. And so they talk to people and they put, right? Do you understand? It's the thing about a people farm is that if there's something that you actually like to do that isn't a solitary endeavor, you could meet people doing it and farm them. Not everybody that's a successful agent has a geographic farm. I'm just saying, it's not a have to. Right? Now, as we get into this, my suggestion is going to be that you try everything when you're new. Right? Because you don't have a lot of escrows, do you? No? Right? You don't have sign-offs to go to? Anybody have sign-offs to go to this week? No? Right. So you should do market research. How much inventory is there and what is the rising? Some of you saw me do this yesterday, but I'm going to, if it's okay, do it again. Should I do it again? I don't know if I want to really do how to run the MLS, but the multiple listing service. But one of the things that I would do is in an area is I would find out. To find out turnover, what you have to do is mark out an area, right? And when you're starting, you're going to need at least 500 homes if it's a geographic area to do anything. And I'm just going to share with you something that I showed to the people that pay extra that I meet with. No, I'm just kidding. Assuming a $500,000 listing with a 2.5% commission, that's about $7,000 in gross commissions, assuming that one side, and using an 8-year movement, which we used in as an example. Right now it's 15, but as I said, as prices go up, that might change. That means that there's roughly a 12.5% annual turnover. Right? And at 500 homes, that means that there's 62 sales. Now, your mileage may vary. Right? So what you do is when you find an area you're interested in, you find a friendly title company rep, and you'll learn if you're new that all title reps are friendly. Right? There's very few unfriendly ones. And if you gave them a little map and you said, I'm interested in farming this area, you're going to find that they're excited to talk to you, and they'll tell you exactly how many homes there are in that area. Exactly. Right? You could do it yourself, but why not let them do it? Then, using the polygon search in the MLS, you can see exactly how many sales there were in the MLS. There are more sales than that sometimes because there may be for sale by owners that may be, right? But, so, what is your likely market share when you're new? And really, now my suggestion is that you pick an area that somebody isn't already farming. How do you do that? Well, you run the last year in that area and look at the names of the listing agents. And if you see what we were doing it yesterday is I showed people in Area Blossom Valley where somebody from the office that I came from a heavy farming office. It was a Century 21 group, and the names in this area are Angie Koch, Tim Ryan, Rick Funk, Rick Veck. And if you live in one of their territories, you know what I mean. What these are farming agents, and you could run Angie Koch, who came from our company, and you could see the swath of listings right next to the foothills in 95123. I would not pick that even if I lived there. Right? You understand? Why? Why? Because when I picked my farm, which was the streets in Blossom Valley, nearby was Tim Ryan, who had been farming from our office for 20 years at that point. And I had new agents say, well, I want to farm in that area because I live there. And I'm like, you move over a couple blocks and no one is farming it, right? And how do you know no one is farming it? Because when you run the market, you see that no agent has 2 listings that have sold. That means nobody's farming it, right? Now, you can do whatever you want, but I would pick an area where there isn't an agent who's been farming it for decades that has more than 1/3 of all the listings. Why? Right? Do you understand? Why bother? just move over a little bit and you're going to find they look like exactly the same homes. They're selling at exactly the same price and nobody's farming that neighborhood. If you do that, getting 10% market share is not unheard of, right? You understand? It may be hard to do that against Angie Cock, but it may not be hard to do that in the area that nobody's farming. That means 6 listings, I'm rounding down, at $7,000, that's $42,000. Right? By the way, the 7,000, if it was, that's assuming a low commission split. If you do the math, some of you that afterwards do the math, I've really rounded down the commission. I've really rounded it down. So, and at 20% market share, that's 12, which would be, you'd be buying a new car. Right? These numbers are really low. The $7,000 is way off. Because if it's, this was something I have to admit I'd written for elsewhere. Right? At this point, you would have capped in our office and you'd be getting $14,000. You'd be getting double that. Right? So forgetting, let me just change this. You can do your own math as to how much you can ask me to help you, what your commission would be. All right, so I'm going to remove that. But I've just looked, the numbers, I mean, we pay better than Century 21 does. Right, we pay a lot better than Century 21 does. All right, so, but also, if you're doing the right farm, some of the people that are listing are going to buy. Right? If you're doing Almaden and Silver Creek, none of them are going to buy in Santa Clara County. But if you're doing Blossom Valley, some of them are selling and moving up. If you're doing condos and townhomes, they're selling and moving up. If there's a third, that's another 2 to 4 transactions. And we're not even counting yet you're getting buyers because you have listings. Right? You understand? We're only talking about the listing side, not buyers that you've attracted. Right? So did you understand that at 6 listings, that may not sound like a lot, unless you don't have any, but those 6 listings will probably involve at least another 6 other transactions. Right? Because of buyers and sellers that are buying as well. And if you were closing a transaction a month, you'd be, well, could you live on that? You'd have to cut back a little. Right? So, and when you get critical mass, when I started farming, I got my first listing in Crow Lane. The family, they were the Lees, 5412 Crow Lane. Right? They called me within 10 days of when I began. And I listed their house, and it sold, and right across the street were the Schmitz, and they listed their much bigger house, and it sold, and they were talking to their neighbors, the Don Diandos, which had the Pancal, way more expensive home down the street. I listed it, and it sold, and then 2 listings came up on Crow Court, and by this time people were calling me, because I had signs all over the neighborhood, and I had reached critical mass, and it became easier. Now I'm getting listings on all the little streets around them. Right? Do you understand that this, once you get there, it's easier to get business when you've got business than it is to get business when you don't got business. And by the way, my recommendation, if it's in, we're going to talk about listing presentations and things like that next week. If it was in my farm, I wanted the listing at any price and any commission. Right? I'm just saying, you can have your own theory about this, but if you're starting in a farm area, I wanted that listing at any price, at any commission. I wanted the sign. Right? Because if I got the sign, I got more signs, and I got buyers. As it turns out, the Lees listed it at 6%, as did the Schmitz and the Don Diandos. But I'm just saying, when I went to Almaden, I took anything until I got listings. All right? So, also, you can meet people at open houses. If you're running an ad, there's sphere of influence from the people that are there. There's referrals. There's investors who own in the farm. What you do is you also get the non-owner occupieds, which the title company is going to give you. And what that means is that the people that live there are probably renters. and the people that don't live there are investors. And the title company will give you, they don't give us labels anymore, but they'll give you the names and addresses of the people that own it but do not live there, investors. Sometimes people say, well, how do I find investors? Because they already own stuff, right? They already own stuff. And if they're happy with their Blossom Valley investment, they may want another one. I would send them different things. And what I would send to the people that were renters was a future homeowner. Why send them stuff about listing a home I know they don't own it? All right. So you're going to want to do market research. You're going to need to talk. You're going to need to know that market inside and out. How many days on market? What are the names of the builders? I could still tell you the names of the builders from my old farm. All right. Most of them were pyramid homes. I could tell you where in San Jose you could find homes built by Pyramid.
When you plug that into MLS, does that come up?
If you go back far enough, agents that older agents may know who the builders were, but a lot of times people don't put it in. But if you ran the full length of the MLS, everything that has come on the market, and you look, you'll start seeing the names of the builders. It may not be as big of a deal now, but yes, and you.
Property profile.
And the property profile.
Tell you who the original builder was, because it goes back to the beginning.
A legal description of the property, the lot, block, and tract will tell you exactly what was the subdivider that built it.
Okay, but that's quite an extensive research project.
The title company, tell the title company that you want a farm report for this area and draw it out. You'll be amazed at how much data they're willing to give you.
Just to make sure you include builder information.
Yeah, they'll help you with that.
Okay.
So even though my clients didn't know what the builder was, I did. Right? You need to know the basic data of interest to sellers, study and practice scripts. You should become an expert on what homes are selling for, what they look like, how much remodeling they had. Right? Everything about those properties, so that when you finally meet a seller and they start asking you questions, you have answers. Other than, I don't know. I said, oh, did they remodel the kitchen? Yeah. It says here they remodeled the kitchen. Really? What did they do? Did they replace the cabinets? Huh? I don't know. How about the countertop in the kitchen? Did they do that? I don't know. Was it just, what was it mean by remodeling? Was it just a new sink? I don't know. I didn't actually see it. Right, but I'm the specialist. I'm the area specialist. Right? Isn't that what you're going to tell people you are? Right? Even though I've had agents that said they were the area specialist and they'd get lost driving to their farm. Right? Right? By the way, get magnetic. Some people are going to hate this. Car signs. Right? The things you put on the side of your car. There's your picture. I know. And I used to have them, and I by the way, you can take them off. And I would, what? No, mine didn't, as long as your car is clean when you put them on. And I would drive, even when I didn't have any business in my farm, I would drive slowly through my farm. I'm not kidding. I have no pride.
Do you have music going?
No, just about. I would drive on weekends at times when people are there through my farm so they would see me. My slogan was hard at work in your neighborhood. Right? That was my slogan. Right? And I would drive through it so they would see me driving. They would think I'm driving to meet somebody. I don't know what they thought. Right? But I would find for sale by owners. I would drive through the neighborhood. I would learn everything there was about the neighborhood. By the way, we're going to talk about websites and things like that a little bit, but I would connect with all the schools. I would know their schedules, the football schedule for the high school, the drama, right, all that stuff, right? Churches have events. They oftentimes have bulletins. I found that people oftentimes live near the church they go to. Right, I would run ads in the church bulletins. Just saying. So what research you can talk about, fill in the blanks below with statistics that apply to your local market. Does anybody know how many homes there are listed for sale in San Jose? All right. How about this? Let's do an area. Area 12, right? Area 12 is Blossom Valley. And let's just do that.
Well, Santa Teresa,
Pardon me?
about 12 is Santa Teresa.
No. Santa Teresa is 2. Right? And I don't know why it wants, because somebody has done. So if you're having trouble figuring this out, you would go through the different list, and if you go to San Jose, and you go to Blossom Valley, and we click on OK. Sometimes, see, and it wants to do something else here. I don't know why it wants to do that. All right. So if we say, and we have to say active, and we say single-family homes, and we wait, there's 38. Right? If we were to just clear this, let me just, because sometimes if you're just talking to people, we're going to do San Jose. And we wait, there's 623 active, let's see, single family, 463 active single family listings in San Jose. I don't have anything else. It's not a lot, 463.
600?
Right. But that's active. If we were to say active, pending, the number is 1,665. By the way, that was a ratio I always knew, right? How many were active and how many were pending? Because that shows something about the strength of the market. This, by the way, is a very strong market. By the way, of those, how many of them do you think are REOs? Because one of the things people still ask me is, well, I want to get REO business. All right. How many of these are REOs? 47.
How do you get the idea of this? Like,
Oh, do you have a relative that's a vice president of a bank?
no.
No. You can't now, unless you know somebody, because there's way more experienced REO agents than there are REOs. But in the day, you would go to seminars and things like that, and then you would put together a package and you'd send it to the lenders, and then they would give you what are called BPOs, which are broker price opinions, and you would do them, and they would pay you $50, and you'd keep doing them, and then eventually they'd give you REO listings. And then if they liked you, they gave you more, and they had a website, and you'd go log in. But there aren't any REOs, right? I mean, right? You understand? I wouldn't focus on that. So how about, so not REOs is 1,618, right, of all of these. How about short sales? How many are short sales? So we're going to say, and short sales, and let me wait for this. Why is it doing this? Short sales, 685, not short sales. Let's see if this, 980, what am I missing? It's the and. All right. 685, because it isn't adding up to the 980. There's still in San Jose a lot of short sales, right? But by the way, in your market, if you were doing 95123 as an example, would you want to know how many bank owns there were, how many short sales there were, so when somebody starts talking to you about the market, that you were just a wealth of information. Not hard to find, right? This is not hard to find. All right, let's, these are some scripts. You should know the average days on market and the inventory trends. And what we're going to do is we're going to move on to something else. All right.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is there a way of setting up daily alerts in the MLS about changes in the market?
Is there a way about setting up daily alerts in the MLS about changes in the market? If you go to your dashboard, first of all, there's something called the Market Watch, right, which is this here, which you can customize for a particular area. All right, that's the only, you can create, by the way, if you're farming an area, what you want to do is create an email alert to yourself. You set up yourself as a contact, and you want everything that happens in your farm, you want to be sent an email. Every new listing, everything, right? And so that you don't want to have to remember to log into the MLS and look at it, you want it to just show up. You can't get MLS statistics sent to you by email. But every time you log in, the Market Watch will show you, and you can customize what it shows you, and yes, you can only have one. right? All right. So what I'd like to do, we're going to do this in 5 minutes, and then how am I doing on this? How about let's move ahead to something else. Let's talk about lead generation. There's some scripts which I suggest everybody has a script partner, right? I know that these two have script partners, right? Anybody else have a script partner? Jackie's not here. So the rest of you are going to find one and you're going to practice these scripts, but we're not going to do it right now. It says about posting, creating a post to attract sellers. I'm not going to go through Facebook posting now or Google Plus, but we'll talk about that in another class. Lead generation. First of all, your database, especially your Mets. Everybody you know and everybody you meet, you want to put into your database and follow up with. The average person really knows, forget about Facebook friends, about 20 people. Yes?
Well, since I take a dog everywhere I go, so I'm doing 5 miles, 10 miles anyway. I talk to people because of my dog, but I cannot put those names in my database, right? Only I talk to real estate. I am.
No, not necessarily. If people, if you wear a name badge, right? I'm not. Right, or what I've always found is that if I asked you, well, what do you do for a living? Right, you're going to tell me.
Right.
And if I keep asking you, how long have you done that? Really, do you like doing that? What got you interested in that? They're pretty, but
We have dogs each other.
well, but then maybe that won't work, right? But what I've found is that when and I'm not doing it today because I'm incognito. When I wear something that says Keller Williams, people will oftentimes say, how's the real estate market? And I would say, I learned this from a guy named Tommy Hopkins. I would always say, unbelievable, right? Because, how could you go wrong with that? And then I would ask them, are you renting or owning right now? Oh, yeah, we own. Really? How long have you lived there? Really? Yeah, it's a nice area. Why did you move? When do you, and I would ask people, when do you plan on selling your home? Right? I'd just ask them that. Right, and then I would ask people, this is a script from Rev Up from the first one. I put out some information about what's going on in the real estate market. Would you mind if I sent you a copy? If they say sure, you now have a right to ask them for their information. Right? So sometimes it's easier than others. But what the advantage of working for a company that has a known logo is that you can wear something and they'll ask you about it. Right? So you want to keep talking to people. This 8x8 and social media, I may have mentioned this, but this is related to farming as well. The 8x8 comes from a study done by Hobbs and Herder where they created a fictitious real estate agent, mailed stuff on him to a neighborhood once a week for 8 weeks, and then called people and asked who's the top agent in your area, and the fictitious guy won. Right? You know what I'm saying? Just about the power of marketing. So if you get somebody, these are campaigns that you can launch in eEdge. Also social media. The other thing is that people will sometimes let you friend them on Facebook. Right? Like, did you know that there are dog walking groups on Facebook? Did you know that?
No.
Yes.
I walk actually.
But do you understand? Can you find people that walk dogs?
That's right.
So people will say, if you have their name and you say, are you on Facebook? And they say, yeah. You say, great. And then you friend them on Facebook, and the idea is you don't just keep saying, I'm a real estate agent and anybody wants to buy or sell a house, right? But what you do, we'll talk about Facebook, is that you set up the Facebook so that you see everything they post and you make comments. And you like and you share what they post. And now you're communicating. I've hired agents entirely from Facebook. They came in and met with me to sign up, but all the communication, no emails, no phone conversations. All of it was Facebook messaging. Right? So there's ways. Business-to-business leads. I talked about the idea of going through the yellow pages and looking at all the different kinds of businesses that might be interested in talking to real estate agents and calling up the business. Let's say it's somebody who does remodeling, and you say, "Hi, my name is Mike. I'm with Keller Williams, and I have clients from time to time that need remodeling services. And I see that you do remodeling. Are you still taking customers? Are you still, are you booked, entirely?" And they'll say, "No. Yes, I'm taking customers. Would it be okay for me to drop by, find out a little bit more about your service? Maybe we could work together," right? They're going to probably say yes, right? And you go talk to them. They probably have business cards that they'll give you, which has their phone number and their email address, right? Do you think people that go to remodelers are oftentimes thinking about selling their home? Sometimes they're just thinking about remodeling, but it's one of the things that people do. How about painters? Do you think they paint before they sell their home? Landscapers, do you think they landscape before they sell their home? Right? Cleaning companies. I knew cleaning companies because I had clients who needed cleaning companies, right? Handymen, haulers, movers, right? You get the idea. These are people that would probably be happy to talk to you. I met a guy that had a moving company. He handed me like 6 business cards to hand out to other people, and he wanted mine, right? I told him he wants to get a real estate license. You never know, right? So business-to-business leads, open houses. If you do an open house, some people are buyers and some people are sellers. I would oftentimes schedule 2 open houses, one in the morning for the people in the neighborhood. Farming, we've talked about that. We have a farming meeting over at the Campbell office at noon today, I guess it is, but I'm going to be meeting with you two to start with and more hopefully soon, and we're going to, on a weekly basis, what we're going to decide after this meeting is what day and what time the 3 of us are going to meet, right? And then we're going to talk about this. And so I'm not going to, this is a fairly good chart about comparing different areas. Right? I'm not going to go through the whole chart, but I want to just show it to you. We have a course called Lead Generation 36-12-3, 36 transactions in 12 months at 3 hours a day. And if you do door knocking, it's going to happen quicker. But there's a lot of different ways in which you can farm. We have samples. You want to set up an email alert so that if anybody from Keller Williams of Silicon Valley lists a house in your farm, that you know about it that morning and call them up and ask them if you can do an open house. If it's vacant and they're doing an open house on the weekend, ask them if you can do Fridays. Ask them if you can. Now, by the way, one of the expenses about farming is that you're going to want to have name writers and signs. How about this? Forget the name writers. Signs. At Keller Williams, we allow you to put your name and phone number, your picture if you want to, on the for sale sign. By the way, Century 21 would not allow you to do that. Intero doesn't let you do that. Coldwell Banker doesn't let you do that. DeLon Pinnell doesn't let you do that. All right, you have to have the office phone number on the sign. And they're doing that because they're hoping people will call the office and they can take the lead and give them to somebody they like better than you. I'm not kidding.
That's the
Right?
difference.
I'm not kidding. Right? But you can have, we don't care. We don't want our phone number. You don't want our phone number on your sign. We don't want our phone number on your sign, but you're going to need to have some signs to put up for the listings. It takes a little while to make them. You also want to have open house signs for when you get a listing that have your name and phone number on them too. All right.
Is there a problem for the women to have their pictures on the signs? Because you put your signs out and everybody knows there's a woman at that open house. In Saratoga, we had problems.
Well, we'll talk about, in the open house, we talk about safety. What you do is you find a picture on the internet of some evil-looking goth guy, and you put that on all of your signs and business cards, so that everybody will be afraid to talk to you. And I'm sorry, but so.
You can see what that looks like?
Oh.
There we go. Yay.
Yeah.
Is that better than
Yes,
open
yes,
house?
very nice. It's easy for me to put, but I was worrying about how can I stick in the
Well, then that's a
Talking about the picture.
the picture.
It's right like that to say.
Is
I
it
mean,
better?
in my kind of semi-farm, I'm not farming as strong as I used to, but I've had people drive by, I'm holding an open house and say, I saw your sign yesterday, because they drove by.
Right.
And then this is, I'd redo this one, if I had to do it again. It just doesn't say Keller Williams, but I would put a bigger picture.
Yeah.
This is about me, this is not about the house. I mean, if they drive by the house, they're gonna stop.
Right.
But this is about marketing, which is what he's talking about. Don't confuse what we do, we market,
Right.
right?
Right.
Thank you. So is it better to put your picture or not put it
Big smile.
I would put your picture on,
You put it in?
unless if Guy's willing to put his picture, surely you could put your picture. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. So, circle prospecting. All right, and I'm going to talk a little bit more of people. I've mentioned this before. If there is a listing or a sale, it generates other listings and sales. So let's say it's not your listing and it is not your sale. Can you call people in the neighborhood and say, I'm just letting you know that there's been a home that has just come on the market in your neighborhood, right? The Andersons around the corner have just put their home on the market, and I thought you might be interested in finding out information about that, right? Do you know of anybody that's thinking of selling their home? How long have you lived here? When do you plan on selling your home? Right? When there's a sale, meaning we, sold. There's been a recent sale of a home in your neighborhood. There's still a lot of people interested in buying in the neighborhood. Are you interested in selling? Do you know anybody interested in selling? When do you plan on selling your home? Right? So I know agents that get listings and they don't work they just call everybody in San Jose around business. There's business around a business. Right? Because what happens is people have been sitting around not selling their homes because they didn't have to. And all of a sudden they see sales start occurring in their neighborhood, and then they start thinking, gee, maybe now is a good time. And if you call them and talk to them, they might say, well, yeah, we've been thinking about it for a couple of years. We're not really too sure. And you say, well, how'd you like to find out what your home would probably sell for in today's market? Are weekdays or weekends better for you? Weekends, Saturday or Sunday? Saturday, morning or afternoon? Afternoon, 2 or 3? Right? And you go over and do a market analysis. Does that make sense? Know your market statistics. Get involved. Block parties. Our system it was from the other place. We used to do Easter egg hunts for the neighborhood. Right? There were parks. And you had to go through and get a permit, but the farming agent would organize an Easter egg hunt for the kids, right? We would have Santa and an elf, and you could get your pictures taken with Santa, and you bring your kids by, and you get your picture. We paid for the Santa and the elf. Our agents would do this, and by the way, the office actually would do, a group of agents would get together and they'd have a room and they would set it all up and invite everybody in the neighborhood to bring their kids by to have a picture taken with Santa.
This office does that every year.
We do that every year. Right, so you can invite people. You understand you want to become involved in that neighborhood. Right? If there's meetings and things. This, by the way, is time consuming. See, one of the things that people oftentimes find out when they're sitting through Ignite is that everything seems to be a lot more work than they thought. Right? But if you want to do this well, you need to become involved in the neighborhood. Blogging is a topic I'm going to talk about in another class. There's an easy way for you to create a blog. For sale by owners. 10% of all homes that are in the neighborhood are for sale by owners. How would you find a for sale by owner? Does anybody have an example? Pardon?
I did go to Google.
You did Google?
Google search, yeah. I just be all this evergreen and
For sale by, wow.
oh, Gregory's.
For sale by owner. You're going to find that there's a for sale by owner.com. There is an owners.com. There is, so if you were to click on them, you're going to find that these are sites where people list their homes to sell. Craigslist. All right, let's take a look at this. So what I did, and I did this a little bit to get ahead, I went to Craigslist, South Bay Real Estate, all, and let me, just so you understand what I'm doing, I go here to South Bay and I go to Real Estate for Sale, and notice one of the choices is by owner. Oh, gee. Wow, that was hard. Right? And if I want to say by broker, then that comes up by owner. And right?
So since I couldn't do it, I was doing all everything on laptop. I noticed Craigslist shows everything listed by broker. So if I
But you can pick. You see up here it says by broker, by owner, or both.
But because I have a broker, my sibling, so if I want to list somebody, I'm a seller.
You know, you're a Craigslist thinks you're a broker.
Oh no.
I'm going to do it. There is, if you go to kw.com, you're going to see we have classes on Craigslist. And I will do a class on Craigslist. We'll talk. One of the things I do with people I'm coaching is I show them how to run ads on Craigslist. No. That means that you work for a broker. Right. So, pardon? What, Craigslist today? Sure. We'll run an ad on Craigslist today. All right. I'll show you guys how to run an ad on Craigslist. It's what? 3 o'clock. This is our 2 to 3. I'm sorry, 2 to 3. And you guys, when we meet, I'll show you how to do. I've done classes on Craigslist. I have videos of them. There's stuff online. We'll do a Craigslist ad too. I'll show you how to do that. The thing about it is that, first of all, running an ad on Craigslist doesn't work very well for sellers. Right? Where would you run an ad on Craigslist if you were interested in finding sellers? Well, there's sort of community, local news, right? So what's happening in the Blossom Valley real estate market, could that constitute local news? Right. Also, services. Real estate is a service. If I were worried about for sale by, short sales, I might run an ad under financial and legal. Right? I'm making it clear that I'm a real estate agent, but might somebody who's underwater on their loan and behind on their payments be looking at financial and legal services? Right? And so I could run an ad, and having done all this, I'm going to tell you, you don't get results. Right? I'm just telling you, these are all good ideas, they just don't work. Right? Because people that are thinking of selling their homes are generally not looking there. So in terms of getting sellers, which is what we're talking about today, it's the buy owners that are people that are saying, I want to sell my home. Do they have an agent? No. Do they want to sell their home? Yes. All right? You understand? Now, for sale by owners require follow-up. Reality has to beat them with the 2x4. And what I learned, I did a lot of for sale by owners, and they all were in my farm. I did not, because I was busy anyhow, I did not just call all for sale by owners, but if they were in my farm, I worked them because they'd been receiving stuff from me. Right? They've seen my picture. Right? So, does that make sense? Right? You can find them. Do we have scripts? What do you think? First of all, these are things I want to be finished at 11, but I'm going to show a video on seller objections, and what we're going to do is practice scripts. Isn't that going to be fun? So this is, where are we? Session number 12. For sale by owners. How about this? Hope you can hear me.
Let's take a look at the most common objections from for sale by owners. Objection number 1. We think we have the time to get our home sold ourselves.
When a buyer and their agent drive by and they're interested and they can't reach you immediately, you've lost that buyer. Why don't you go to work and do what you do best and let me do what I do best?
Objection number 2. We can make more on the sale by not paying an agent commission.
Most people assume they'll make more. They think it will sell for the same price whether they sell it or I do. That's just not true. The best agents get 98 to 99% of the list price. For sale by owners often get what less experienced agents get, usually about 8 to 10% less than the experienced agents do. You see, if you pay me a 6% commission, you'll still be ahead of the game by a couple of percent, and you won't have the stress of managing the sale yourself. Wouldn't that be great?
Exercise. Find a partner in class and take turns role-playing each objection.
All right, we're going to do this one. Is that okay with you guys? Can you find, do you still have partners? Guy bailed on Tim. I just want you to practice reading these objections, all right? Because there's money here, all right? So what we're going to do, there's one of you is A and one of you is B, and the A will go first, and then the B will go second. Is that to count? Is that all right? All right. And Tim, you're going to just, this. All right.
We think we have time to get our home sold ourselves.
We have time to get our home sold ourselves.
We can make more on the sale by not paying an agent commission.
Most people assume they'll make more. They think we sell at the same price.
We can make more on the sale by
The best
not
agents
paying
get 98
agent commission.
percent of the list price. We're sale by owners, less experienced agents get usually about 8 to 10% less than experienced agents. You'll see, you see, if you pay me 6% commission, you'll still be ahead of the game by a couple of percent. And you won't have the stress of managing sales by yourself. Wouldn't that be great?
If you pay me 6% commission, you'll still be ahead of the game.
You see, if you pay me 6%, you'll still be ahead of the game. And you won't have to sell by yourself.
We think we have time to get our home sold. We have the time to get our home sold.
What I find as an agent, when I buy, that they are interested.
Why don't you go to work and do what you do best and have me do what I do? Okay. We can make more on the sale by not paying an agent.
And do what you do best, and then let me do what I do best.
For the same price, whether they sell or we can make more on the sale or I do. It's just not true. The best agents get 98.
Most people assume they will make more. They think it will sell for the same price whether they sell it or
You see, if you pay me 6% commission,
that's just
you
not
still be
true.
accept the gambling.
The best agent get 98 to 99% of the discount. For sale by owners, get what the best agent get usually about 8 to 10%, and experienced agents pay me 6% commission.
When a buyer or their agent drive by and
You
they're
still
interested
be
in
ahead
immediately,
of the
you want
game
that.
by a couple of
Why don't you go to work, just do what you do best.
and you won't have the strength to sell by yourself. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
Well, you know what, you could actually throw in the TV watcher, but those commercials.
Are you in?
What's it for reality medicine? Why would you let a doctor, work on their house or something,
Good.
so, kind of spin it
I
that way.
started with Century 21 years ago, but
I would try to do your job.
I came in an office in the
Physically, rely on my
So
expertise.
after 1 year, I just came out and worked by myself.
So I was gone for
I didn't do, I did not know what level. So del Banco, Marilyn Williams.
Um,
Are we doing objection number one?
as many of them as you can. There's only two.
There's only two.
All right. There are a lot more additional scripts on for sale by owners. You know, what I would always say to for sale by, and once this happened to me one time, I would tell the story to every other one. There was a guy in my farm put up a for sale by owner sign. And by the way, my approach always was that I would call him up and I would say that, you know, as you probably know, I work this area, and that I have people that are interested, buyers, and sometimes they don't want my listing, but they might like yours. And I would always ask them if they were willing to cooperate if I brought them a buyer. Right? Now, most for sale by owners don't want to pay the listing side, but they will pay an agent who finds a buyer. Right? They will. So they would say to me, well, do you have a buyer that might be interested in my house? And I would say, I don't know, I've never seen your house. When can I come and take a look at it? And they would say, well, we don't run, agents that come, do you have, and I said, I don't know if I have a buyer or not. I have to look at your house. When can I come and look at your house? Right? So then I would come and look at the house. Right? Now that I'm in the house and I'm talking to them about why they're doing this and why they're going for sale by owner, and I would point out to them that when this happened one time, I told the story every time afterwards, is that there was a guy that was for sale by owner. He had it on the market for a while. I went and talked to him, and I kept, calling him and asking him how it was going. And then finally he listed the home with me. And within like a few days of putting it on the MLS and putting my sign up, I get a call, and there's some people say, we're interested in that new listing of yours. And I said, great, when would you like to see it? And they said, oh, we've already seen it. We'd like to make an offer. I was like, oh, okay. All right. And so I wrote up an offer. And while we were doing some of the inspections, the owner was there, and first of all, he was concerned when he saw the name on the offer. And then when he saw them, he got kind of ticked off, and because they had talked to him when it was a for sale by owner. And so I'm sitting there, and it was a little uncomfortable, and he's saying to them, why didn't you write an offer when I had it myself? And they said, well, we were waiting for you to list it with an agent so we would know that the paperwork would all be done right. Right? 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 Now, what kind of buyer wouldn't be concerned about that? I've told you about the guy that I used to work with named Max, All Cash Max, that had a lawyer, had a contractor, right? Max didn't care. He didn't care, right? But you understand, bargain hunters, sophisticated investors looking to flip the property. Right? People that aren't paying retail but are going to pay wholesale. Isn't that what, right? Right? Because most buyers, it's complicated enough, don't want to work with a for sale by owner, because what they say, well, you have to hire a lawyer to read the contract. Right? That makes sense. You know how good lawyers are at reading termite reports? Right? You think a lawyer understands a roof inspection? Right? You know what they're going to say? Well, you need to hire a contractor to do that. I don't do that. All I do is read the contract. And what they always want to do is change the contract so that they can charge you money for rewriting the contract. Right? That's all they want to do. Right? Do you understand? Very few people want to go with this. Almost all for sale by owners eventually list the home. It's just a question of when. Right? So follow up is what's most important in getting for sale by owners. Right? The reality will beat them down. So they want to save the commission, but so does the buyer who wants to buy from them. They both can't save the same commission. Right? Do you understand? They want to save money, but the buyer says, well, I don't have to pay as much. Right? I don't have to pay as much. And Mr. Berry has, did a class on disclosures. Do you think there's a greater chance that the transaction is going to get screwed up and that somebody's going to sue? Right? So there's some more scripts here. We have a bunch of them, but there's stuff about preparing the home for sale. You can give them a list of tips. but basically you just have to keep following up with them. And this is something that is going to work in this market. The reason I say that is that when we're in a market like this, where there's multiple offers, that's when people think they can do for sale by owners. Right? When we were in a buyer's market and homes were languishing on the market, we were listing homes and taking 6-month listings. Why 6 months? Because we didn't think it would sell very quickly. Right? Very few people were going for sale by owner then because they knew it was a hard market. Now they're thinking, well, everything is selling. For more than people are asking, all I have to do is put it on the internet at forsalebyowner.com and it's going to sell and I'll get my price and I won't have to pay an agent. And you see, the other thing when you're talking to them is that they think that what you do is simply find the buyer. Right? That's all they think. And we do a lot more than that. Now, another category is expired listings. And I'm not going to spend a long time on this, but I just want to show you something. First of all, how would you find them? Let's go to the MLS, and I'm going to notice expired is a choice. Does everybody see that? Canceled and withdrawn, you have to be careful. Withdrawn means that they've taken it off the market, but they're still under contract. Canceled means canceled, right? So you could contact a canceled, but not a withdrawn. Was that clear what I just said, right? You can contact a canceled but not a withdrawn. Withdrawn means that they still have a listing agreement, but they removed it from the MLS.
But wouldn't canceled signify they've decided not to sell?
That's, well, what does expired mean?
Expired means the agent didn't do his job.
Well, but they also they will say, when you call expired, they're going to say, we've decided not to sell. All right, but so let's just do expired first. Single family.
Does withdrawn have to run the length of the original listing contract?
We have no idea what the original listing agreement is, and we have no idea why they withdrew it.
Okay.
Right, we just leave them alone.
Okay.
So expireds, single family. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in San Jose, all right, a big area, and over 2,500 matches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask how many have expired in the last 14 days. In San Jose, single family. Anybody have a guess? When I scroll up, you'll see them.
Very few. I called 5 yesterday.
1.
5 expired listings.
Let's see, is there something wrong here?
1.
1, single family home, status 6, San Jose. Right? That doesn't seem like a lot. Let's see, how about Santa Clara County? Right.
43.
43. So maybe there are 43 in the last 2 weeks. That's it. In Santa Clara County. So are you going to make a living calling these people? Probably not. Right? You see, expireds is a bad market method. Gary Keller wrote a book called Shift. You have to be, has anybody ever told you to be successful in real estate, you have to be shifty? Have you ever heard that? No? So in other words, there was a time when there were a lot of expireds. How about this? Well, now, wait a second. How about people 01, 01, 2011 plus? How about, let me do this. 2, 12, 31, 2011. 1,361. Oh, that's a bigger number. That was last year when it was bad. So this can be time consuming. Are there some of those people that have listed their homes and sold it since then?
Sure.
Are there some of them that have not?
Sure.
Now, might they be interested in talking to you? Even if they say they're not. Do you understand? People that tried before and failed. I would go back 3 or 4 months and start looking. In other words, if you go back to the do you think that if you went back for the last 5 years, you could find a whole bunch of people whose listings have expired, right? Now this
That doesn't mean that they didn't come back on market.
What we have to do is do research, right? Look at the history. See, you have to put in the property and see if it's been listed and sold since then, right? This is time consuming. Right, you understand you'd have to check manually each one to see if it's been listed and sold. right? And the ones that haven't would be worth a call. Right? But there are a lot more for sale by owners right now. For sale by owners, yes. Expires, not so much, unless you go back in time. So, and I know that it's like in a fantasy, but I'm not going to go into expired. I'm not going to do all this on expireds right now. Can everybody understand why? Because there's a long section on expireds and expired scripts. But this is, if I were coaching you, I would not push you towards expireds except for old ones. Now, just to sort of wrap this up, and there's many of the people that are here are in my coaching program, but what I'm going to endeavor to accomplish is that you create a plan for spending at least 2 hours a day on lead generation. And part of that could be looking at buyers, even though right now buyers are harder to work with because there isn't a lot of inventory and the people with all cash that close in 10 days are getting it, but that's not always going to be the same. Notice last year there were a lot of expired listings, right? So next year it could be different. And so you want them. But if I were you, you would want to develop a plan for finding sellers. What should I recap? Right? You're going to talk to everybody you know and everybody you meet. You're going to try and get them in your database. If they say, how's the real estate business? You're going to say, it's fantastic if you're selling your home. All right? It's fantastic if you're selling your home. Who do you know that's thinking of selling their home? Know anybody thinking of selling their home? When do you plan on selling your home? Like, and I've had people give me, they screw up their face when I say that because they say, well, you wouldn't say that to people. I would say that to people. When do you plan on selling your home? Huh? When do you plan on selling your home? Right? Why not? Nobody ever tried to slap me. They would usually give me an answer. So everybody you meet. Number two, could call businesses that might be precursors to people selling their homes. Remodelers, air conditioning, heating, cleaning, services, right? And you're going to say to them, hey, I'm in real estate. I'm going to have clients that are going to be interested in your kind of services. Maybe we could work together. Can I come by and talk to you? Right? You're still taking clients, aren't you? Right? And you go and you meet with them, spend 5 minutes, get their information, put them in your database. Number three, you're going to pick a geographic area. All right? Could be a condominium complex or a single-family neighborhood. You're going to aim for starter homes, right, that have high turnovers. Right?
Do you know all this, Heather? Yeah. Okay.
All right. A geographic area. You're going to also we're going to make calls around listings. I talked about the shotgun, right, or the scattered pattern. When somebody lists the home, we'll call people around it. When somebody buys a home, how would you get those phone lists? Title companies. What about the people on the do not call list?
Don't call them.
Does the title company have software that already screens that out?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, it's scrubbed.
How much is the title company going to charge you? Nothing. Are they friendly, the people from the title companies? Are they rude? Are they mean? Are they hard? They're very friendly, aren't they? Right, yes.
You know, I was looking for title company in Evergreen, but everything like San Jose Airport, the Meridian.
Well, there are some in Evergreen. Don't worry about that. Well, if you come into the office and just stand in the lobby,
Okay.
you will meet a title rep.
Good,
Right.
I have to.
Don't worry about that. Right? There are probably flyers in the room. Don't worry about that. I know title reps. Right? Finding a good title rep is not a constraint. Yes.
We're gonna have vendors,
Yes. You're going to meet one. I'm having a title rep come. Oh, the vendor appreciation.
yeah, that's gonna be.
Yeah.
13.
Right. They'll be here. We lock the doors and don't let them out. We make them talk to you.
Yeah, so we'll have a lot of people.
Good, 'cause I was going to ask how the week.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. They're title companies. We're lousy with title reps, right? Believe me. So we're going to be calling around listings and sales. and for sale by owners. Right? Want me to go through that list again? Right? You want me to go through the list again?
Yeah.
Number 1 is everybody you meet. Number 2 are other businesses that might know people that are buying or selling real estate. Number 3, pick a geographic area. Number 4,
For sale by owner.
now there's another one, going around the circles around the listings and sales. Calling business around listings and sales and for sale by owners. I would do everything, right? I would do everything. And if you have extra time, go back to the old lists of expireds and start, because it's time, I'm telling you, it's time consuming. You pull them up, you have to put them in to see if they've sold. If they haven't, call them right then. Just don't make a list, just call them right then, right? If you were to spend 2 hours a day doing this, you'd be making money. If you were to spend 3 hours a day, you'd be looking at the different private offices, which one you wanted to move into. Right? Okay? Any questions about that? You want me to go through the list? What? We don't have any private offices with windows.
Well, what do you have to do to get a window?
You have to make a hole in the wall. All right, that's the list of what I would recommend that somebody do right now in order to get seller leads. I wouldn't worry about REOs. Notices the default is where you might get short sales. The short sales are dropping, right? And believe me, working notices of default is a painful thing, right? It's very painful if you go and knock on their door. Really painful. All right, so these things are all very doable, correct? Okay. Right? Is there anything that I've said that is confusing? Everything. What?
Business, number 1, you said talk with everyone that I met.
Right.
Number 2 is businesses.
Right.
What do you mean by business?
Well, how about people that do remodeling? Do you think that they talk to people that want to sell homes?
I see.
How about people that, painters? How about air conditioning and heating people? How about people that clean homes? How about people, right, do you understand? Just about any business, services that might also, if it's a real estate agent, have you ever helped somebody hire a handyman? Have you ever helped somebody find a cleaner? A carpet guy? I had a carpet guy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Number 3 is try to comb people around for sale by owner.
Or any listing, not for sale by owners, but anything in the market, you find a recent sale. Right, sales are the easiest to start with. You find a recent sale, you get a list from the title company of people around that sale, and you call them up and you say, "We recently sold a home at," and there's a lot more people interested in buying in your neighborhood. Do you know of anybody thinking of selling their home? Any of your neighbors you know are thinking of selling their home, and they say, I don't know, I can't think of anybody. They might say, sometimes they say, well, yeah, I have a friend. Oh, can I have their number? Right? Then if they say, no, I can't think of anybody. Well, how about you? When do you plan on selling your home? Right?
And number 4, you're talking about own expired listing.
No, geographic farm is number 4.
Geographic.
Right? No, geographic farm is number 4. Number 5 is for sale by owners. And number 6, if you have time, is going through old expired listings. Because there aren't any new ones.
Oh, so number 5 is new expired.
5 is for sale by owners.
5 is for sale by owner.
Right?
Okay.
No, 5 is for sale by
One more time. Number 1 is people that you've met.
Yeah.
Number 2 are businesses that might have services that people would want. Number 3 is a geographic farm. Number 4 is calling around recent sales. And if you don't have enough of them, recent listings. Number 5 is for sale by owners. And number 6 is listings that expired last year or in the beginning of this year or the year before, the year before, the year before, because you're not going to find any that have expired in the last 2 weeks. I mean, really. Right? Isn't that right? Those are the seller leads. Go get them.
So on the MLS, how do you find out